Hello, everybody. I look a mess right now. Leave me alone. It's been a rough week and a half. It's Thursday. Anyways, I wanted to talk about boyhood and I guess more specifically how I view boyhood through like the media or and like real life experiences versus girlhood. I don't want to compare it too much, but I feel like, part of describing it would also be saying also kind of what it's not or how it differs from my own experiences versus what I see. I'm almost done with Catcher in the Rye. I never was assigned to read it in high school, so that's why I haven't read it. But something about it, I just really enjoy it. And I feel the same way whenever I read like Tom Sawyer and other stories. I guess these are all older. They're not necessarily modern boyhood stories. Obviously, Catcher in the Rye, I believe, is like 1951. And Tom Sawyer's like way even before that. Like, I believe it was in the 1800s, like late 1800s. I believe it is, yeah. But the fact that these movies, right, over like half a century away from each other, and this book over like half a century away from us today, and I feel like so much still stands in the ideas of, again, boyhood, and how I feel like I have seen it, because again, I'm not a boy, surprise. I haven't experienced it, but I have seen it a lot. I am a very observant type of person, I feel like, when it comes to the way people behave and the way they communicate and interact with each other. I'm very non-observant about other things. Like, I'm not going to remember any street names around me, anything like that, but I will remember that I saw a lady wearing Crocs and leggings across the street of that street that I don't know the name of. Anyways, the thing I wanted to get to is that it has always really fascinated me, and I think part of it is because I wish I had experienced it, because the main thing that I think of when I think of boyhood is freedom and the ability to kind of do your own thing, having less expectations thrown upon you, kind of having this idea always in the back of your mind that it's just gonna be fine. At least that's how I've seen it. And oddly enough, I remember my first ever relationship that I was in with a man. You're like young, you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you don't know what love is. But I just remember being really infatuated by this person. And part of my infatuation was the stories that they told me about like high school and this and that, and I just kept thinking like, wow, that seems so free. And even the way that we were both the same age, we're both kind of doing the same thing, we're both in school, and yet we're both having wildly different experiences, and I couldn't help but think how free he seemed to be. Obviously, that's not the truth always. A lot of people just kind of, you see them a certain way, but you realize that your vision is not entirely accurate because a lot of people internalize stuff instead of displaying it. But this is, again, my general idea with boyhood, that idea of freedom and the ability to kind of do whatever you want, and how jealous I was of that. So when I think, particularly if we're talking in the literary sense of like Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, those kind of stories, those boys were rebellious. But they were rebellious in a way that they knew the consequences, but they just didn't care. They didn't feel like the consequences were like almost like not real enough or not valuable enough to obey for. And I feel like as girls, we I think we take more of an emotional load whenever we receive consequences, or when we realize that our perception from other people has changed. I feel like we put more emotional value on that than I have seen boys put in reality. I believe that boys are quick to action. They do what they want a lot of the time. And that's another aspect that I've observed also with the way that they go to women and that they act in relationships. One thing I will always stand on this: there are no such things as mixed signals with guys. If you think that a guy is sending you like mixed signals, or like you don't really know exactly how he's feeling, he's not feeling you. When a man like is attracted to you and likes you and wants to be with you, I'm telling you, like, they will show you and they will tell you, unless they're like young, like you're both young, because like they don't know what they're doing. Like, people are just shy, naturally shy at that age. But when a man is interested in you, you will know. You can tell. I promise you. There are no such thing as mixed signals. And once you realize that, you're going to live such a peaceful life. You're going to be like, oh, this guy's not answering me back. He's not playing games. He's just not that into me. If a guy really is into you, he's not doing all of that. Like, I promise you 1,000%. Anyways, back to this again. But yeah, that's another aspect that I always kind of was always jealous of, seeing how men could just kind of go for what they wanted and didn't really care that much about consequences, or didn't give them that much value in their lives. And same thing with kind of like what I really enjoy about Catcher in the Rye versus like Tom Sawyer is that Catcher in the Rye is self-narrated from the boy's perspective. And I feel like it gives you even a greater insight, a study of this, again, portrayal of kind of that sense of boyhood. And it's very interesting. I mean, he will like mention what, I'm going to do this thing, and like, boy, I know like my mom's gonna be upset or whatever, but who cares? Like, I need this for me. And again, that's just, a lot of these sentiments from boyhoods are things that carry on to adulthood that then become a little more annoying, let's say, if you're a woman trying to deal with a man. I feel like, again, because they never gave that value to consequences or to how perception of them will change, they carry on those same behaviors into adulthood, and those same kind of like character traits. Again, I'm not saying these are all boys, because people grow up in different circumstances, the same way that not all girls experience the same girlhood. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure my grandma, who grew up living in a farm in like Europe, did not experience the same girlhood that I did at all. There are still certain societal ideals, though, that carry on with both things. Like, I feel like, again, let's use the example of like people who like grow up in a more remote place, maybe don't have that many acts or like opportunities to do kind of the things that like the characters in this book are doing to express their freedom and all of that. There's still other societal aspects that contribute to it, and I feel like it really starts in the home. I mean, this is not a secret, but if you're a boy, like a son, you're gonna be treated differently than a daughter. It's just like, it's like undebatable. It's true. And I don't have any brothers or anything like that, but I was able to observe this through like my cousins and my friends who did have like brothers and stuff. And you could tell that there was way less expectations put on the boy. It was, women, I feel like girls are expected, or like we grow up already carrying more of an emotional load than our counterparts. And I believe that boys just, because again, kind of that lack of expectation and a lot of the times like lack of consequences, I mean, that's kind of why they grow up to be the way they do. On the flip side of it, though, the way that like boys and girls are bad is also treated differently. And I see this because I've worked with kids for years, and I've observed how differently like teachers and like coaches or whatever will like talk to a boy versus a girl, but also call out their behaviors. It is very, very easy for a boy to do something and get called like bad for doing it or get called out for that, versus girls, because girls are bad in a different way, in a more like, in a less visual way, I want to say, or even if it's in a visual way, it feels less intense because it's coming from a girl, which is another bias. And I feel like it again, in my opinion, plays to that idea of like boys care less about consequences and stuff like that, because they know that they can be called bad or called out for like a lot more frequently for things. So they're like, why even bother caring about this thing when people are going to get mad about this thing either way? And I feel like, again, that also brings that out of the girls, of that idea of like keeping more of these things internalized. That's why I feel like when I also communicate with guys versus girls, even as an adult, it's different sometimes. Sometimes girls can take longer to become more direct with you. Not necessarily like vulnerability, like I'm not talking about girls like pouring their heart out about something or opening up about certain things. Definitely girls, I feel like, have an easier time being vulnerable with other girls, like faster obviously than like a boy and another boy, or like a boy and a girl, whatever that may be. But it's still that idea of having to kind of be more secretive, carry your burden more internally, because the emotional burden that you carry might be more intense and you aren't really taught to deal with it. I feel like boys have a lot more outlets for their emotions, whether it's like physical or yeah, I mean like if you get angry at someone and you just kind of fight them in the moment, you kind of let it out immediately. While if you keep it internally, it carries on with you and you will think about it more, you will try to rationalize it more, you will try to find more ways around it, like logically. It takes more of your mental power to deal with that. And I'm not saying that we should all be fighting each other and getting these things out on the resolve. I'm saying we should be more, I guess, direct and open with our communication. I think that we don't need to beat each other up, but we also don't need to keep our burdens hidden. We're all humans. We're all kind of same. Like, we should all be able to take things back and forth. But that's another conversation. I think that my main fascination with boyhood is kind of the fact that I'll never get to experience it. And another factor of it, though, is the friendships that develop between guys. I always found them a mystery, and I think that's also part of my fascination with it. Because if you're a girl, even if you're friend with two boys who are friends, you're never going to fully get to understand their dynamic whenever they're alone, because they're like, the second a girl enters, the dynamic might look different. But I've seen a number of different types of like men and men, like friendships, and I feel like a prevalent theme that I've seen in most of them is the lack of full-on talking and explaining things. I feel like when you talk to a guy, it feels like easier because you don't have to go out and be like, I don't know. I feel like when I talk like to like my girlfriends, like if I'm upset about something or something like that, like they will want to start a conversation about it, which like, I mean, it's also kind of my instinct. Like if someone's like, are you like, I don't know if you guys can see that, but my computer just did the thumbs up. Like if I tell someone like, oh, I'm not feeling really well, my girlfriend will immediately be like, did something happen? Like, is everything okay? Like, they want to get to the root of it, like discuss it. Again, which is my instinct too. But I feel like if I text like a guy from like, I'm not feeling okay today, they might just be like, yeah, like, man, that happens, you know, like, don't worry about it. It's like, you don't need to go that deep. And I don't think it's either a good or a bad thing. It's just kind of more of an observation in the way that I think it differs. And another aspect of that, I think, is like a lot of boy friendships feel a little more surface level. Again, not that they can't get deep and understand each other's problems and stuff like that, but it is more about active. It's more active, I would say. Like doing things together. Like I feel like boys mainly are with each other whenever they're doing something, or yeah, they're either like playing physical games, like other games, whatever it may be, like going out. Well, I feel like girls are more likely to have those type of relationships that are like, they wake up like, I'm pulling up, I'm just hanging out, or just to be in each other's like presence. And yeah, I feel like that's another thing that stems from, you know, being a girl versus being a boy when you're little, understanding all of that. But yeah, I mean, I hope I made sense. I didn't plan what to say. Just was in the middle of my breakfast and I was starting to think about it while reading my book. But yeah, I might revisit this topic later with a more planned out way of speaking. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours.